Hey, today I want to look at a really practical step, which is kind of how to get from a script into actual production. So these are still very early steps, but we're getting out of pre-production, and I want to talk about what's the transition look like from pre-production to production, and how do I actually get things on screen and get visuals out there. So this is my script. I'm sharing with you the first page, which is what we call a cold open. This is where we jump right into some of the action. I set up some exposition for my overall episode story, and we introduce the title, Night Shift Archive, Episode 2, Midnight Promotion, which is the name of this episode. So this is my script. I talked about script writing in the last video. I'm just going to read through this and then talk about next steps. So fade in, exterior, deep space. A single sliver of technology is suspended in the vast pitch black emptiness of space. A man's voice speaks in a reverberating echo. Dream voice. Man born of Earth, your journey far. A close-up reveals the sliver is actually a spacecraft floating in nothingness. Dream voice. To the nearest sun, your neighbor's star. A camera pushes in on the interior of the spacecraft down one of its dark corridors. Dream voice. The dreamer travels while others stay. A console switches from cryosleep active to warming. Dream voice. In one slumber, 1,595 days. A man lays sleeping in a pod. As the camera pushes in, we see his bearded face with glasses. The sound of synthetic droning builds. Slow push in on sleeping pod. The droning builds as the title appears on the screen. Night Shift Archive, Midnight Promotion. Cut to black. So there's the script for the first kind of page. Now, overall, this is what we call a spec script, which means I'm not really getting into the specific shots that I want to put in here. However, I did list this slow push in here, just because it was something specific that came to mind. But really, this script is just for me. So whatever is useful for me, I put in here. I'm not really writing this for anybody else, with this being an indie production. So I'll take my script, I'll refine it. This is overall a 20-page script. It gets into a lot of different stuff, but this is kind of the first page. So from here, how do I actually start making visuals? How do I bridge that gap? Well, traditionally, you would do it with something like a storyboard. And the advantage of a storyboard is similar to a script. It's really easy to pivot. So with a script, changing direction is as easy as deleting some text and typing something new. With a storyboard, it's similar. If you want to change visually what something's going to be, then you can just start over on a new frame, draw a new picture. And it's much less of a commitment than changing environments and textures and models and all of the stuff that we get into further on down the production pipeline. Personally, I don't typically do a storyboard. What I'll actually do is I'll take my script and I'll screenshot some of the actions. So for example, a close-up reveals the sliver is actually a spacecraft floating in nothingness. What that is that's a shot. So I'll screenshot that and then I'll bring it over into DaVinci, which you can see right here. So for this first environment, the exterior of outer space, I know that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shots, and I just screenshot those, and it explains what's happening. A man lays sleeping in a pod. As the camera pushes in, we see his bearded face with glasses. That's a shot. So I'll start to put those into a timeline, and I'll actually edit them to music. Now, something you should know about my productions is I'm very fortunate. I get to work with my brother, who composes music for everything that I do. He's really awesome. You should go check him out. He goes by Static Currents. So I take the music from him even before I have a script. I'll sit down with his music and I'll close my eyes and listen to it, and I'll try to picture what's going on in my story. And that's how I'll write the script. So music is it's a catalyst for me. It's very instrumental in inspiring me to what the writing is going to be. So before I get to even the script, I have the music. Then what's nice is I can take the final soundtracks, the demo files at least, and put them into my actual DaVinci Resolve timeline. And I can start to get a feel for the pacing. how long should each shot last? I can also put in some narration. In this one, I have a voiceover. If I had dialogue, I can put in the dialogue. Either I record who I need to record, or if I don't have someone yet, then I'll just do a scratch track. I'll just talk myself and record everything myself. Sometimes that makes it into the final. But yeah, this is kind of my working storyboard. I personally like to work in DaVinci, cut things together, have a really solid idea of the pacing and the length of each shot. So I'm going to play through this. I'm going to turn off my microphone, turn on desktop audio, and I'll just play through this and let you see what I built in DaVinci so far. Then I'll talk about where I go from here.
Man born of earth, your journey far, to the nearest sun, your neighbor star. The dreamer travels while others stay. In one slumber, 1,595 days.
Okay, so there you go. That might not be final, but that's a pretty good idea of how long each shot should last. So from here, what do I have? I have a script. I know where we are. I know my environment. I know how many shots I'm going to need, and I know the exact frame count of each shot. In DaVinci, if you select a clip and hit Control D for duration, it will bring up this clip duration where you can look at the time and the actual frame count. I'm working in 24 frames per second. I already know that. That's all set. So I know how long each shot lasts. This one's 153 frames. This next one is 110 frames. You get the idea. So from here, I go to another tool. So we've used Fade In for script writing. We've used DaVinci for kind of my storyboard process. And now let's go to Notion, which is an online database. You could build out. It's basically just information organization. There's a lot of things you could do with it. This is how I track the videos that I make, the trainings, my client work, and as you can see here, Night Shift Archive episode production. So let's just open this up. This is the name of the production. Here's my script, and here are all of my environments. I got these environments from Fade In. If we go back to Fade In, as you can see, you can go to Locations. Under our navigator here, these are all of the different environments for this particular script. So how does it know this? Well, as you're writing your script under the format, when you're writing an environment, it's called a scene heading, and nothing else is like a scene heading. A scene heading starts with EXT or INT, exterior or interior. Then you usually have the location followed by if it's nighttime or daytime. So I know that I have in 21 pages all of these different environments. And what I'll do is I'll take that straight into Notion over here. And I have all of my, 11 environments or so. And from here, I can actually start to build out that shot list from the storyboard in DaVinci. So let me just show you an example. Let's go to exterior deep space. If I open this up, I have 5 shots and I have the frame count for each shot. And of course, I've got this through DaVinci in the storyboard process. So this is a very good way for me to work. I don't know if it's a perfect system, but it works for me to keep organized. I even have a little slot here for my blend files if I want to upload a blend file. And I'll actually probably just have one blend file for all 5 shots. I'll just have 5 scenes in that blend file. But I'll upload that blend file here so that I have it for long-term storage. You know, if I need to go back to it, download it again at a future date and work within it, I don't want that sitting on my local disk. I want it in the cloud. And it's just a nice way for me to get organized. The benefit of knowing the frame count here is I can then start to calculate my render budgets. So for example, 153 frames plus 110 plus 96 plus 105 plus 300. In this sequence, I'll have 764 frames. Now, ideally, I'll render that in one night. So my render budget is kind of 8 hours. So what will it take to do 764 frames in under 8 hours? Well, let's say I had a budget of 30 seconds. That's like more than enough render time for me. So let's multiply that for 30 to get the total seconds, divide by 60 to get minutes, and divide by 60 to get hours. If I keep things to 30 seconds, this will render in 6 hours, just above 6 hours. So then I'll start with a blend file. I'll create a blend file, which I'll get into more later on down the road in the next video maybe, where I'll show you the actual blend file with the different scenes. And I'll start to build out the shots with specific frame counts. So in one blend file, scene 1 will be 153 frames, scene 2 will be 110, and so on. And the reason I have it all in one blend file is so that I can share assets between one scene to the next. I'll get into that in a bit more detail. And then I'll use something like BlenderQ, which is an add-on I covered on my YouTube channel, which you can go and watch that video for free, where I'll send it into BlenderQ to set up a queue of rendering overnight. And this is how I take things. I take things in one environment at a time. So exterior, deep space is one blend file. Exterior of the apartment is another blend file. So when this is all said and done, the entire 20-minute episode will be contained within 11 blend files. Each of those blend files is a sequence of shots, and each shot sequence gets its own scene in Blender. So hopefully you see how I break things up, how I stay organized, how I go from script and start to work into DaVinci Resolve for my storyboard, to get the pacing of things, and then finally into Blender, where I start to get out the renderings, back to Resolve, where I do some post-production and final stuff like titles and final sound effects and all that good stuff. In the next video, I will start to actually get into the environment creation, working in a blend file. I'll show you how I break that out into the scenes, and we'll be pretty deep into production at that point. But I just wanted to give you a look at the transition. How do I keep organized? How do I stay on track? Yeah, so that's my system. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.